Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We're bellied up to the bar today with a serial, not killer. I hope you all saw my one post because I loved it. I found this amazing image, and it was a suit and tie Jason Voorhees, and I was like, how perfect for serial entrepreneur. But we have with us serial entrepreneur, podcast mogul, network owner. Like, there's all kinds of tags we can give Erik. But most of all, we're just going to call him Erik Cabral. Erik, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Sean. Oh, I love the applause. Thank you.
It's the live audience at the bar.
Yeah.
How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. How are you? Thanks for
Good. How are things in New Jersey?
Good, man. Sun's setting. It's nighttime, and so hopefully the girls, as they get ready for bed, are not going to scream and yell and get on your show.
Hey, look, my 5-year-old's upstairs right now watching a Disney movie called Under Wraps, something about a mummy. So I expect at any moment, and once he realizes I'm podcasting, he likes to like run on, and he can't hear. I got my earpieces in, and he'll run up and be like, "Hi," and everybody's like, and then I'm taking the earpiece. But that's why it's
so
the
bad.
bar. It's a bar. You never know who's going to show up.
You never know who's going to roll up on you while you're enjoying a drink. It could be your kids, could be an ex, who knows?
Lost you for a moment there.
I'm here.
Yep. So let's go ahead and get things going, get the house cleaning done so we can get everybody situated. So as always, folks, let's move the mic for a moment. For those of you that are watching live, there's the big board for sticker and a cause. If you've got a cause that you believe in, something that you're supporting, maybe you have your own podcast, maybe you have a charitable organization, you got something going up, maybe you got a band. I don't care what it is. Reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Even our email is the Above the Bar podcast. Our network is the Earplug Podcast Network. You can reach me on any one of those, the Above the Bar podcast. Let me know what you got going on. I'll give you the address where to send the sticker. You send me a sticker. We put it up on the board. We read about it. That's free advertisement for you because that's the only way we all get to grow is if we do it together. All right. So we've got that. Other thing is, hey, maybe your media looks like it was killed by a serial killer and you need to improve it. So that's Media by Dibs. Make sure you reach out to Dibs. He's Media by Dibs on Facebook and on Media by Dibs on Instagram. If you find him on LinkedIn, it's Andrew Dibble. He'll sit down with you. It's a 10% discount on your first order and a free consultation if you tell him belly up to the bar. Can't beat it. And if you're wondering like, well, how do I know what Dibs Media is? He does tons of minor league baseball teams, media, hockey teams, media. So he's got it kind of figured out. Trust me, reach out to Media by Dibs. So house cleaning is done, Erik. The house is clean. The bar's open. You're muted right now, it looks like.
I hear some background noise.
It's okay. Look, that is perfect. Look, every bar is loud. We actually did it. We did an episode a couple of weeks ago from a bar, like in a bar.
Nice.
That was when I realized I had to get different mics. I had to get instead of regular podcasting mics, I had to pick up some lollipop mics because
some directional, vocal mics.
Yeah, because it was bad. Like people were like, I like the show. It just got kind of hard to hear sometimes. I'm like, it was a grand opening for a bar.
Gotcha. The energy was there though. That's
right.
That's important.
It was great. Cameras going. So, well, let's talk about. So, I mentioned earlier. So, you are a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's funny and I'll probably have to update that because when I hear it now, because I probably put that in there many, many years ago. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a strength, Sean, honestly.
What do you mean?
I feel like it's a distraction, right? It's the reason I was a serial entrepreneur is because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I left corporate America after over 20 years, and I was like, I tried everything. Like I put a ton of irons in the fire, and I was like, whatever works, works, and they were all working. So I had to like I was saying before the mics and camera turned on, I was like, diluted focus equals diluted results. So I was building a lot of things at the same time, but not one of them was shining or taking off
Okay.
as it could have. I mean, I learned a ton, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend being a serial entrepreneur, especially if you're the one doing everything, because now I'm blessed enough to have business partners that do a lot of the work. So therefore I can do more stuff. But yeah, I probably update that, Sean, at some point.
So that's interesting. We've had other serial entrepreneurs on, and most of them wear that like a badge of honor that you are this is, I know we're going to get into the podcasting piece in a minute, but this is interesting to me because you're the first serial entrepreneur I've ever spoken to that had successful businesses. They've all had successes, who was like, yeah, it was great. I did it, but I wouldn't recommend it. And I do love your tagline, diluted equals diluted. I love the fact that diluted effort, diluted results. Or diluted focus, diluted results. I'm going to say
Yeah.
diluted. That's amazing. But I really want to hear more about that. And folks, if you're joining us right now, please like, share this out to other all your yard sale sites that you belong to on Facebook and anywhere else, so you can get kicked off of them. That's the only other way other people see this, and they need to hear Erik, because that's interesting to me. I've never heard a serial entrepreneur say, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. It was years and years in the making, Sean, because I was learning. I had a very limited mindset and experience, just towing the corporate line and doing it for decades, waiting to collect that gold watch. Maybe I'll get a set of Ginsu steak knives and cut through cans, and whatever it was I was waiting for never really came, or do I think it was going to come. And then I was like, man, I'm making all this money for all these Fortune 100 companies, and all I get is a thank you. Don't let the door smack you in the ass on the way out.
Right.
you
Don't
know?
let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna crush it all. I'm gonna do what Gary Vee tells me. I'm gonna document the journey. I'm gonna hustle and grind. And I don't recommend that either. I mean, that's burning the candle on both ends. Like if you're young and you're young 20 something that likes to show off your tattoos versus your scars, because like OGs like us, we like to talk about the lessons learned through failure. Whereas, at the time, if it wasn't right timing for me. I was in my mid 40s. I was going through my midlife crisis. So I had to prove something to myself and to others. Like, I could do this without corporate. And yeah, man, it was tough, and finally we're gaining success. A lot of it was pounding the chest and look what we can do. And on the stage, it looked great, but backstage, it was a hot mess. People running into each other, falling downstairs. There's fires. Put the fire out.
Oh God, that's so great. So you're saying it didn't look like it looked like the wolf that ate Wall Street, not Wolf of Wall Street.
I like that. Yeah, exactly.
That's wild though. So, well, how many years were you doing that for? And I promise you, I'm listening. I keep complaining I got to buy new chairs, new
Yeah,
bar
new bar
stools,
stools.
because
Exactly.
my bar stool, the compression in it is like
Oh,
dying.
the hydraulics start
Oh, the
to,
hydro,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like someday somebody will jump on here and be like, "This is how you fix that," and tell me. I'm too lazy to look it up.
yeah.
But how many years were you doing that portion of it? The serial entrepreneur piece.
I mean, I'm still doing it. I put some things to rest and focused my attention on one thing, which is my multimedia company, On Air Brands. So at the time when I started and I left corporate America, I got into real estate investing, and I was like, I'm going to learn this, and I'm just going to become a full-time investor, and I'm going to create wealth and blah blah blah. It's going to be raining dollars, and I was just going to, I was going to be Trump, I was going to be whatever. Whoever was investing, it looked to me was ridiculously successful. So I was chasing the dollar. And then when I had some relative success there, I noticed that there were other opportunities, right? All these investors were interested in what I was doing in social media and podcasting and branding and marketing. I started to help one investor and then I help another. And then all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, I got to start hiring people. I can't do all this by myself. So then it created my multimedia agency, On Air Brands. But every opportunity that came, Sean, it was like, oh, I'll do that too. So then, like, I had all these podcasters in my network, and I had all these investors in my network, and I had all these people that wanted to be on a podcast. So I was like, what if we just stuff you all in a room? And then I'll charge tickets for that. And then everybody can be on each other's podcast. And then it worked. You know, people were paying like upwards of $3,000 to get in the door. And I was like, this is a new business. So then I was like, okay, On Air Brands, you go off to the side while I go build this. And then so it was like 3 businesses now that I'm running at the same time. And yeah, it drove me crazy, man. And it drove the people around me crazy because I wasn't focused. I was just going to the shiny object.
Now I want to get into, everybody wanting to be on a podcast and all that you were dealing with. So I've got some friends that, they spend serious money, not like BS, like, oh, I've got a coach and, I see them once a month and I spend $50 and they tell me, suck it up, buttercup. It's not one of those kind of things. I've got friends that they're in that, almost in that serial element, and they're spending tens of thousands of dollars on legit coaching. And one of the big things right now is go have a podcast. You need a podcast. What are your now I know when I hear it from these folks, I kind of look at them and go, please don't. And it's not, and I say it to them like, not in a mean way,
Yeah.
but I'm like, you are you good at talking to people?
Yeah.
In that way? What are some of the, like, you've talked to these people, you've dealt with these people.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your thoughts when people are like, so yeah, I think I can go ahead and get me a podcast. I'm going to go ahead and get out there. I'll be like the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah. It's an interesting time that we're living in, right? I liken it to, speaking to I'm guessing you're a Gen Xer like I am.
Yeah, I'm 45.
Yeah. So we remember the .com era. We remember everybody had a website. And prior to websites, what were there? Business cards, brochures, business meetups, things like that. But when the web became a platform for your business and it became the new calling card, the new business card, and it was a requirement, if you have a business, you got to have a website. Not everyone had a nice website, and not everyone had a clear message on their website. A lot of people just threw exactly what was on their brochures or whatever was on their business card, and they just slapped it up there. Yahoo sites, and
Yes.
and, what was the other ones?
Firefly.
Do you remember this one before Google? Not North Star, I think, was one.
Well, there
North Star was one.
There's
Ask
Jeeves.
Jeeves.
Jeeves,
You remember
which
that
had
one?
commercials. They had commercials for
Dude.
Ask Jeeves.
Oh yeah, and it was all on the radio, right? So,
Yeah.
so it's kind of
Prodigy.
the same. Like with Prodigy. Remember getting the metal, the tin
Yes.
cases, AOL, Netscape, not Netscape.
Well, Prodigy, did you know who owned Prodigy?
Who?
Sears.
Oh really?
Prodigy was a Sears thing.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah,
My
that
dad
was
worked there.
huge.
That's the only reason I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thought AOL.com, remember, was the internet, and I had to explain to my
Yes.
parents, that's not the internet. So we're kind of in the same era. It's very, very similar to me that podcasting is like a must for businesses now, right? It used to be a hobby, a way to kind of just have fun with your friends and shoot the shit, and be your version of whatever Rogan is or Tim Ferriss, whoever it was. It's not like these guys are having fun, right? Smoking
Right.
weed and drinking and just like bullshitting with your friends. But then now people are like, wait a minute, I can do sales through my podcast, or I could sell people stuff. Like, and it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I'm not a big fan of that. If you want to do that, you could do it the right way with some integrity. Cool, then do it. Make sure that the people that you're talking to are aware that this could potentially be a sale, right? And your intention is to see if you can help them versus like, hey, I'm going to sell you on this and I'm going to Trojan horse this. So I'm not a big fan of that. But
Like, oh
yeah.
God, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was
crazy,
just
right? You see it.
agreeing with you
You see it happen, right? You see it happen.
all day long.
And people don't like that. People don't like being hoodwinked, bait and switched. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be a guest on your show. Thank you so much. Oh, wait a minute. this feels weird. Now you're trying to take my pants off. It's like, whoa, slow down. I thought I was just here to hang out, man.
I got Bill Cosby. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, exactly. So the thing is, so that there's that, but then there's also, here's where we're kind of like evolving. Now everyone has a podcast. There's 2.8 million podcasts out there, more than half of which aren't even active, right? They're dead in the water, what we call pod faded. You know, they can't even get past 8 to 10 episodes. And I don't recommend that, right? But I do recommend, as entrepreneurs or people who want to experiment, try. Go ahead, try. If it's not for you, that's fine. Nobody's judging. Just do it. And if it does, just walk away. But if you do want to do it and you do want to grow a podcast and a following in a community and you want to build your business from it, you have to stick with it, right? You got to do it for 12 months at least. You got to stick to it, right? Commit to it. Whether there's one person listening, most likely your mom, or anyone else, and yourself. So there's two. And the thing is, you got to stick to it. So the thing is also, here's the really, really, really important thing. If anyone gets anything from this, and I'm sure we're going to have way cooler stuff to talk about. But right now, if you've gotten this far, congratulations and thank you. The thing is, you got to have a message and you got to be super clear on your values. Like, you can't just turn the mic on and just start bullshitting, because people are going to get tired of that. They're not going to know what to expect. They're not going to see any consistency. Like, have 2 or 3 main topics that you talk about over and over and over. You can have different guests, but hit up on those topics. And what will be cool and what will be exciting is how your guest riffs off your topics. Because that's what the thing is like, just like old school Barnes and Noble, when we used to walk in and like, I pick up that Better Homes and Garden magazine, or I pick up that, that Hot Rod magazine. I know what to expect when I leaf through it, right? If I open up
100%.
Entrepreneur magazine, I'm not expecting to see bikinis, so that wouldn't be a terrible idea. But like, you're flipping through a business magazine, you're not expecting to see, Better Homes and Garden stuff. So when people go to your podcast, you want them to know what to expect. You want it to be somewhat predictable. Guests are great, but solo casts are great too. I like smashing it together. I do solo casting. I do twice a week, one interview on Mondays, and then a solo cast on Thursdays. So there's a lot of different ways. It's the Wild West, man. You can do whatever you want, but just do it consistently. That's the biggest thing.
Well, I think 100% agree with you. Be consistent. I'll even throw this. Don't be afraid to change.
Yeah.
So like I've talked to people about this before. When I first put my show together in my head, I'm like, I'm a middle-aged dad, retired Marine. I've got all these funny things that happen in my day-to-day. And then I got on the mic and I realized I don't remember most of that shit. I don't remember it. And I started going through my shows and realizing I enjoy talking to people. I want to know about people. It's funny you said your topic. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you need to be more niche." I've talked about this 100 times. You need to be more niche. No, I don't. They're like, yeah. You should just do, because I like comic books. Just do comic books. No, I enjoy that. I'm not gonna spend all day on here doing it. Well, what's your show about? My show's about people. Who you are, what you do, and what makes you great.
Yeah.
That's why I got you.
I love it.
Who you are, what you do, what makes you great. If I can get that out of all my guests, that's what I'm looking for. But the 1 year piece, how hard do you think that is for the average person that does this? You're doing 2 shows a week. To me, that's crazy. I do 1 show a week, sometimes Saturdays, but to think 2 shows a week, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Like, how hard do you think it is for the average person? Or what do you think? This is probably a better question. What do you think people miss when they go into it to say, hey, I'm going to tie this to my business, or I'm going to make this into a business doing podcasting? What do you think they miss that they realize, like, oh shit, I can't do this?
What do they miss
before
they come to that
right? Like, what should they know?
Yeah.
Like what is the thing?
So there's 2 things there. The first one is thinking of a podcast as becoming your business. Like, so a lot of people that I talk to, the mainly the ones, and no disrespect to anyone who's listening, because I have a lot of friends and family who come to me with this question. They want to be the next Rogan, right? They
Sure.
want to be the next guy because it looks like fun, right? You know how long Rogan's been doing it? Like,
He's an early adopter.
He's like the pod father, right? I mean, he's the one that started when nobody was listening in his basement, over a dozen years ago. Like, are you down to do this for like 12, 13, 14, 15 years and then see the results? Probably not. So the thing is, it takes a long time if you think that you're going to create. So managing expectations is the number one thing. Um, Podcasting has become such a commodity at this point. Like, there's so many topics, there's so many people, there's so many ways to get podcasts. How are you going to stand out, right? Well, manage your expectations and figure out, like, what are you passionate about? You got to make this a passion thing for you. Like, what are you willing to talk about for the next 3 to 5 years is what I always say. Like, if you don't think you could talk about UFOs for 3 to 5 years, then don't do it, right? If you don't think you could talk about, how to fix cars or whatever it is, then don't do it. But if it's something that is super passionate for you, then yeah, do it, man. Because you won't care how many people are listening. You truly won't. And then that's where the rubber meets the road. Because when you don't really truly care, you'll be yourself, right? You won't try to mold yourself to what you think people want to hear. I don't want to offend anybody. Like, screw that, man. So if you could be yourself and you could step into just putting your stuff out there, no matter what people think or say, then I applaud you, because that's the way you can find success for yourself, because you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for others.
Well, it's funny you said the don't want to offend people thing. You won't offend unless you're offending people in your day to day. Like, you're just walking around, you're just an offensive person. You're probably not going to offend people in a podcast because you're not going to do offensive things.
Yeah.
Like you said, Joe Rogan. For me, I always thought about it like, I would love to be Howard Stern, but I'm not Howard Stern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At no point am I getting up on the mic and be like, and somebody's going to get excited about it. So I absolutely understand that. And it's funny you talked about topics, and I mentioned the niche thing. How do you feel like, should people with podcasts maybe this is a better question. Can you be too niche? I think so, but can you be too niche?
I think so. If you asked me this question 4 or 5 years ago, I would say yes. Now things have changed to the point where the more niche you get, the better you can probably achieve some level of success that you would appreciate, right? So, for example, there's a guy that we're producing a show for, who is talking about mindset and like spirituality, right? So that's a big category. That's a very big category in the podcast industry. But he's also tying it into like wealth management and like investing and things like that. So like, if you can get micro niche, or even better, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, I'm doing all that, everything I just said, plus I'm only talking to women entrepreneurs. Like, the more niche you can get in this day and age, the more you can own a category, right? And the thing is, I forgot the statistic, but it's important. Your first, man, I wish I knew it by heart. I'm just gonna make up a number here. Okay, so it's like the first 90 days of your podcast are the most important. That's when you get the majority of your downloads, because then everything just goes whoosh down. So like, if you wanna launch with some relative success, so that you get as many listeners to commit, because they're going to fall off. There's going to be a lot of other podcasts.
Right.
But if you can really niche down, I do recommend that, actually, Sean. I do recommend that.
And yeah, see, that's interesting to me. I guess for me, I worried about the niche. I worried about the too niche, but I always say I'm a human interest.
Well, it's not for everyone, right? Because if you get too niche, so if you pick one, like what would be one topic that you could probably talk about over the next 3 years?
I could talk about staffing, like, because that's what I do for a living, sales and staffing. I did 12 years of recruiting in the Marine Corps, and now doing it. I could sit down and talk about sales and sales techniques and staffing techniques all day long, all day long.
Yeah. Well, it would be a good experiment. Like, what if you started a podcast? Live is a different beast. If you started a podcast that was like staffing, but then you coupled it with something else, like you talk about a lot of things. I've seen your show. You're like, how to be a blacksmith.
I got that.
Are UFOs real? You had DC Glenn on. Like hip hop 90. Like, so like, imagine you pick that, like staffing but then like a twist of hip hop, like, and then
Oh,
it's like,
that'd
oh
be
shit.
so great. Oh God,
So
that'd be
something like
fun.
that where you mashed some things together.
Staffing in the hip hop industry.
But yeah, you would blow up because like nobody else is doing that, and it's unique to you. Like whatever's unique to you, own it, right? And then all of a sudden you'll build a following because there are people like, oh, I needed this in my life. I didn't realize it, but I need it.
See, I've thought about doing another. See, I've thought about doing a second show with the staffing piece, but it would only be like 15 minutes of preset questions and only interviewing hiring managers or a, agency or internal staffers, but 15 minutes because I feel like it something like that for me. It needs to be long enough for me to get from my driveway to my home. Doesn't need to be longer than that.
Yeah. Well, from listening to your show, which is it's really good, by the way, I do appreciate what you're doing. Um, the you say you did that 15-minute shows, right? I love bite-sized chunks. Nowadays in the TikTok era, like our attention span's getting smaller and
Oh, it's so
smaller and
bad.
smaller and smaller, right? Pretty soon we're gonna be like gnats flying around and like I can't pay attention to anything. And so then, so with that, you could create a show, but from your flavor and style, I recognize there's got to be an element of spontaneity, right? So like you could have those questions laid out, and you're going to get different answers from guests, so that will be somewhat, you know, spontaneous. But then maybe there's something you throw at the end, like, "What's the craziest thing you ate, man?" And then like you'll hear
That's
different
Nathan does
stories,
that
right?
for me.
Yeah, yeah. You throw that curveball question at the end, and it's not always the same every show. So it's like it's a roulette thing. I don't
I have
know.
to think about it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
give us a legitimate thought. I really have thought about it
yeah,
because I look at my industry on a regular, and there's so much craziness in my industry. I had a guy today. This is a no shitter. Called him at 8:30 this morning. Hey, you're all set to start work at 10? Yup, I'm good. Asking me about boots and this, that, and the other. I'm like, yeah, you're good. Call me 30 minutes from going to work on the way to work in his car and go, hey, this other job that I was interested in finally just called me back and wants me to come down there in 45 minutes. Well, look, man, this is a job you have. Go to work for your first day. Call me afterwards. I get a call a couple hours later. He never showed.
wow.
Now, this is a guy, though, that harassed me for weeks
Mm,
to help him find a job. I finally found something that worked for him. But this was after he quit another job after a week.
yeah,
So in my book, you're dead.
yeah,
But I know people in my industry that will keep his information and will find himself. Things happen.
yeah.
No, no, they don't.
Yeah, I mean, in most businesses, especially in my business, like reputation's everything, man. Like it just goes around, right? It's a small world, and eventually it comes back to bite you in the ass. Some people, that's not a value. It's not a core value of theirs. They're just out for self, and they're out for short term, and they don't think long term. But yeah, it's unfortunate, man. Some industries like that, especially a buddy of mine, I was just at his restaurant and he was telling me how like, he's running around like crazy. He owns the business, but he doesn't typically, wait tables and do all this stuff. And he's like, dude, it's crazy. He's like, I had 3 people quit on me today. People just aren't showing up. They're not even putting 2 weeks in. They're just like taking another job. And he's like, it's crazy. How do I keep people? How do I keep my place open?
Well,
So
that's the you've heard the Great Resignation.
yeah.
So now they got another great. It's the what did I see it the other day? The Great Reapplication or something like that. And like what did I tell you what was going to happen somewhere throughout the show?
Oh,
What
yeah.
what
Little one.
I was
Little one.
giving you a high five.
giving me high fives. Thank you.
Nice.
But so we're seeing that now where people are leaving took a job, left an industry. Now they're like, I'll go to another one. And it's so cyclic. But what I have seen, and you could tell your buddy this, and this might be something for him. Some of our industrial clients are offering gas cards to employees. If they hit their 40 hours, here's a $75 gas card, and you don't have to give a raise. It's under the federal tax numbers for it to be considered as, a bonus or anything like that. You're able to give them this, and hold on. You're able to give them this, and now they don't have an excuse to say they couldn't make it to work either.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, there's a lot of incentives. That's a great idea. I know that he told
Hi.
me, hey, little man, how are
He
you?
can't hear you.
What?
I got my earbuds in, see? Mr. Erik can't hear you. Are you still watching your movie? Can you get off my wire, please? All right, go watch your movie.
But I want to play a game then.
Okay, go play a game then. I told you, I knew it was going to happen.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, he told me that he actually provides housing. So like right down the road from the restaurant, he's got apartments, so they live there rent free, bro. And then he also said they get to use the restaurant van, like for stuff, like all sorts of stuff, not just business. So he's like, I don't know what else to do. They got free transportation, they have free housing, and then they're quitting for other opportunities. It's just, like you said, the great resignation.
And it's everywhere. Everybody's offering, but and you being a business owner yourself, I mean, that, I'll toot my industry for a minute. I normally don't talk a lot about it, but I'll toot my industry. That's why I tell people all the time, yeah, there's a cost associated with my industry because we're staffing. You got to pay me, and I'm going to do the work, but we take on all the state extortion fees. So all that unemployment insurance, workman's comp, taxes, everything. The staffing agency takes that on.
There's like a DVD in it.
Yeah, I'll look in a minute. So we take on all those responsibilities up front,
All the risk, yeah.
all the risk for the person. And yeah, there's a markup, but when it's all said and done, that markup works out to like $4.95 an hour. You can't hire an HR manager for that price.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people look at it and they're like, "Why pay this guy $16 an hour? Why am I paying you $27?" Well, you're already paying the state $6 more an hour. You didn't even think about that. Like, you paid that person $16 an hour, but you're actually paying $22 an hour for that person because your state charges you about $6 in extortion fees.
Wow. Yeah.
And then, and that's the only way I know how to look at it, is it's state extortion fees. If I've got to pay a tax, some of it's just a pure tax to have employees.
Unreal. Yeah. They don't make it easy.
No.
Definitely
So
not.
that's my touting of my industry. If anyone wants to know more, reach out to me at the Above the Bar podcast.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you more about how it works. But yeah, but now we've talked about some of the, pitfalls of getting into podcasting and getting into a business. And I will also tell you, we didn't really touch on this. If you're going to be a guest, please don't make yourself into the Amway of guests. I know we've all got something we want to pitch. That's why we run. And that reminds me, I almost forgot. I almost was a horrible host. Look at the banner going along the bottom. Erik's got a giveaway of his guide for podcasting. I will put this in the show notes, but it's Erik Cabral, CABRAL.com. Or is it .com or .co?
.co, yeah.
Oh, .co.
Somebody beat me to it. I'm gonna have to send someone over there, break his legs.
You're in Jersey. You got knee breakers.
Yeah, exactly.
/guide, and it's a giveaway. So make sure you go check that out. We'll put it in the show notes. But I always say that please don't be the Amway of guests where everybody reads your thing that you send them. So just so you know, I'm a coach. I'm actually one of the Fortune 500's most sought after cheesemakers that let me go ahead and come on your show and I'll explain to you how I can make you great. And you're like, what? I don't.
Yeah.
So that's my piece. But what are the upsides? Like, what? Let's talk about that side. We've given the "oh, woe is me," but let's talk about the upside of how podcasting can really increase your business.
Yeah, there's nothing like it, you know. Being in marketing for dozens or decades, for me, I've never seen anything like podcasting where it just at speed, bro, at speed, man, creates no like and trust. Just know, like, and trust, and that is critical in business, right? Someone can know who you are, but they don't necessarily like you. But if they like you, right, all of a sudden that can lead to a conversation. That can lead to, hey, finding stuff that we have in common. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, you do what? Oh, and I do this. And it's like peanut butter and jelly. We mix it together and now we like can help each other. It tastes great. You know, what was that one thing that we grew up with, the commercial? You put
butter in my chocolate.
Put chocolate in my peanut butter. Yeah.
The Reese's commercials.
Reese's commercials. That's what it's like. That's what podcasting is. It's the Reese's of like content creation. Not only that, you're having a conversation, right? And you're just having fun, like, what you're witnessing here in real time. And now all of a sudden, I always say the magic happens when the mic turns off, because it's not necessarily about the content that we're creating, which is great, right? You got to create content in today's day and age. You have to. That's a must if you're in business, especially. But then when the mic and the camera turns off, all of a sudden you're like, hey man, you said something about that. How can I plug in there? How can you? And all of a sudden you're like, you either got new clients or you got a new friend for life. There's so many great things that happen out of the podcast.
100%.
Great.
I've been looking for, and it's the one thing I've actually sent StreamYard messages about. Can you please give me a way that after the show is over for me to continue recording? And they're like, we don't have that. I'm like, look, I could sell the information after the show is over with, probably as good as I could sell my regular show, because I hear like the big one is always, I interviewed a guy, he was amazing. The show's over, and completely out of left field, he goes, oh, I forgot to mention I own the largest collection of serial killer memorabilia in the world. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we'll have to find a time to get me back on. I'm like, what? I'm like,
how did you not mention that? Yeah.
How does that not get mentioned? Like, I would walk into rooms and yell that, like, guess what I own?
Is that a true story? Or you just made that?
100%.
Holy shit.
He lives on Long Island. His name is Reverend or Dr. Reverend David Adamovich. He is also known as the Great Throwdini. He is he's in his 70s, but he is still the fastest knife thrower in the world.
What?
And he didn't even get into that till he was in his 60s. And after the show was over with, he just drops this bomb on me. And I'm like, and this is my early days when I was using Skype to record on. And he drops this bomb in my lap. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, my buddy had passed away. I didn't want to see the collection get broke up, and just throws that out there.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah. So, I digress. So what are some of the other things though, like from when getting into the podcast piece and trying to make it tie into your business? What are some of the things that you've seen that really have made people that you work with successful? Because we all want to monetize this thing. Let's call that what that is.
Yeah.
Like, I got an idea we'll talk about afterwards that I'm going to be working on I'm actually working on a website with one of our prior guests, Jessica Gruber. But what are some of the things that you would advise? Like, let's start with the monetizing piece. Like, do you monetize yours?
In non-traditional ways. So not the way people would expect, like old school traditional radio, like I'm going to put 1-800 mattress on my show. Like I don't do that. But what I do is
you said do.
I said do. I know. Is I created a multimedia agency that produces podcasts for businesses, right? So that's how we're an outlier. So that's how we make money podcasting, because we create podcasts for other people. And I just happen to be a client. But the thing is, I do get people that reach out to me that say, hey, can you put ads on your network? So we'll do that from time to time. It's not an official thing, but we do it. And I said it again. But the thing is, to monetize, I highly recommend if you're going to have a podcast, and if we think about it less like traditional radio, right? Because that's dead. I don't even know how they're still like operating right now. Because once the boomers are gone, and even a large portion of us Gen Xers, no one's listening to radio anymore. Just like no one's listening or watching cable television, right? It's all changed. It's all shifted. Listening and consuming habits are totally different. So I say that when you monetize a podcast, don't think of it like radio, but think about it, like I said, number one, it's building a relationship with someone that can do business with you. So if you have a business or you don't have a business, but you want a podcast, I recommend start a business first, right? Have something, even your side hustle now can become a business, right? And then once you have that business, you kind of bake it in, you thread it in somewhat into the conversations or even after the conversation podcast. And you could say, hey, I can help you, or do you do this, or do you have this? Like for me, after the conversations, I'm typically like, hey, notice you don't have a podcast. Are you interested in having one? We could help you with that. Or do you have one now? Are you happy with the people that you're working with? I'd love to chat with you to tell you what we're doing. That's cool and different. So things like that. So here's the thing though, that I want to share with the audience that was helpful to me when I heard it somewhat recently, that there's 3 things when you're having a conversation with someone, whether they want to hire you or not. And even if this is subconscious, right? There's 3 C's, and say like you and I are talking and Sean, you're considering hiring us to take over your podcast. Number 1, you're going to think of my character. Like, he seems like a cool dude. He seems like he's trustworthy. Maybe I'll do the Googles and I'll see if other people like him and trust him. So, right, there's that. There's character. And then number 2 is like competency. Like, does he seem competent? I'm like, oh yeah, look at all these podcasts he produces. Dozens and dozens of podcasts. He seems pretty confident. His team, at least. Maybe not him, but maybe his team. Super competent. And then number 3 is like your connections. Because a lot of people, dude, honestly, they hire us because they see that I have this crazy network in the real estate space. And they're like, man, he knows everybody in real estate investing. I want to be in his ecosystem because he might introduce me to this and this and this and this. So there's the 3 C's that if you can embody those things, not by trying, but just that's you're those 3 things, then people will probably give you money. And your podcast is the door to the party.
I have to pause you for a second, Erik.
Yeah.
Not because of that. I've told you that it's a lunacy place here sometimes, this bar. I don't know if you can hear the cat right now.
I hear a cat in the background.
But I'm sitting here, can't figure out where my cat is. The 5-year-old, when he went in the bathroom, locked the cat
door.
And closed the door. So give me a moment,
dude, I'll
please.
run the show. Yeah,
You'll take over the show for a moment. Take over for a moment.
I'll tell people what that thing going on underneath here, that little URL, is a podcast do's and don'ts. So, over the course of my experience in the years, I've collected.
No, you locked the kitty cat in the bathroom while Daddy's doing his show, and I could hear the kitty cat in the background.
I'm just telling people what they get when they download.
Let Mr. Erik run this.
It's a he can't hear me. It's a podcast do's and don'ts. It's really good. I love it. And I appreciate Nathan, you participating and jumping in, man. This is awesome. Is Nathan a good friend of yours?
Yes, Nathan is one of my very good friends. He's a horrible fantasy football player. His first pick is always a kicker. I don't understand why. He always picks a kicker, and he always picks a kicker that isn't even in the league anymore. He picks Matt Stover every year, and I keep explaining to him Matt doesn't play anymore. But no, him and I actually normally go head to head on everything. Now there's an example. Like, he actually is very good at look, you see this full of shit. He's actually very good at booking guests. That's one of his things, is he helps out a lot of people. He's helped me out with some folks.
That's awesome.
He's a good booker for podcasts. And that's something him and I've talked about, where he actually wants to make that into a full-time business of just going out and booking guests for people on podcasts, making those connections. He started a Facebook page we're big Ravens fans. We're all originally from Baltimore. And he started a Facebook page that has, not only doesn't have thousands of followers, it's one of the few pages that the actual Ravens players will follow along with. Most of those pages, they get invited to them and they kind of blow them off. Like, yeah, I don't care about that. They actually follow his page and make connections with him and everything. So Nathan's a good dude. He's a horrible fantasy football player, but he's good at that other space. Horrible at it. He loses every year to me.
Someday it'll come.
Yeah, it'll be someday, just not Sunday. But you bring up I like that, the three C's. Now, if somebody does reach out to you, so if somebody's listening to this right now and they're saying to themselves, you know what, I got a podcast in me. I can go Sean's route, which is stumble through it, figure it out. I have my own podfather, Herb. He runs our network. He's been doing it about 12 years also. He's had some good success. He's recovering from some medical stuff, but reaching out to the on air and saying, hey, I got this. Can you make this happen for me with on air brands? What can they expect?
Yeah, they can expect what I like to call turnkey podcast solutions. So it's like someone who doesn't know much or anything, or they know a little bit, but they don't want to learn a new thing. We make it really easy for our clients, so they're like successful business people that have, teams and marketing and all this other stuff, so there's a lot of irons in the fire and they're always building and they're always distracted and they're serial entrepreneurs, right? And they know they need a podcast to amplify what they're doing. So that's where we come in. We're like, okay, we'll work with you for 6 weeks to launch it. We'll conceptualize, we'll strategize, and we figure out everything that you need. Like, a lot of them come with ideas already baked, and we're like, cool, man, and we'll just help you bake more of it, and then we'll serve the cookies. Other people like come and they're like, they don't have a clue. They're like, I don't know what ingredients I need. I don't even know what a kitchen is. I don't know what a spatula is. And we're like, okay, here, you don't need to know all the tools, but let's at least get an idea down so that we can make that happen for you. So that typically takes 6 to 8 weeks. And then it's just monthly production from there, like weekly. We recommend all of our clients, most of them have 1 episode a week, some of them 2. And now we're doing video. We're doing YouTube video. I did like this when we were doing the live stream, because then boom, it's video right off the bat. Right. And then, dude, here's the magic. Here's the crazy secret sauce is we do up to 9, sometimes 10 social media promotional pieces for every single episode. So you're talking like 40 or 50 like content pieces on Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. And we do that. We do the writing, we do the titles, we do all that stuff. So people are like, I love this. It's just,
well, that's the toughest part right there. That's you. That is,
it's all systems.
So like I do my own.
Yeah. That's how I do it.
And it's tough. Like,
it's tough, man. It's tough. That's why people pod fade, because systems, processes, teams, people aren't ready to commit to that. And I committed to it. And then I built a company out of it. I'm not saying that everyone needs to do that, but you need people, right? To stay consistent, hold you accountable. That's what we do, pretty much.
Now, what about the other side? It's the person who maybe they're me. You're 130 episodes into it. You've got a process. You've got what you're going on. Are they calling you?
Most likely not. It depends, right? If you have a business, or you're gaining some traction and success and you're monetizing it, then you would have the budget, to kind of work with us. But I recommend, like, someone in your situation, say you don't have the budget, because we're not cheap, admittedly. It's a bit of an investment. But here's the thing, like VAs, man. Like I got lucky. One of my best friends, who was also in my band at the time, was an audio engineer. He went to school for it in LA. And I was like, dude, can you help me with my podcast?
You said you're what? Was in your what?
He was in my band, yeah.
What kind of band?
Oh,
you can't skip over that.
It was a rock band.
You can't skip over that.
Yeah, I'm a musician. Dude, ever since I started business, I don't play anymore. I have a whole studio downstairs with drums, guitars, bass, everything, man. It's nuts.
Oh, we got to talk about that. So your friend from LA.
Yeah, so he moved to LA. He was in Jersey with me, but yeah, he would produce. Dude, he produced my show for 3 years. And I was like, hey, can you produce another friend show and then another friend show? And then that's what helped me start the company. But then eventually I did hire a VA and she managed all the shows, like everything you're talking about, just scheduling it, finding guests, emailing, all the administrative stuff. And I applaud Nathan for doing that because it's a lot of administrative tasks. I highly recommend hiring a VA in the Philippines, or we've got some in South Africa. We got them all over the country. And you can hire them to do the stuff you don't want to do, spreadsheets, analytics, emails, all that stuff. So that's kind of where you can start systematizing what you're doing, Sean.
See, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, man.
I'm doing it all, and some days it's like, okay, it's time to sit down and do this next post and put it out everywhere. And
it's a lot of work. I see what you're doing, man. It's a lot. I'm like, holy moly! Did you create all those graphics?
Oh,
all the
yeah.
promotions?
Everything that you see,
Dude,
that's me sitting down.
It's almost worth hiring a VA that can do all that, like a designer that can also do administrative stuff. And then you just take it all off your plate. $5 an hour.
Look, I'm all about it's like, who you got for $5 an hour?
Yeah, that's it.
What do you have for $5?
Dude, they don't live in this country. I'll tell you that.
Well, that it's funny you say that.
Yeah.
That's been talk about industries again for a second. I haven't dealt with it, but I know people who have the IT industry is in a hurt locker with the war in Ukraine.
Oh.
So a lot of your top end IT, Java, all them folks, they were in the Ukraine. And you're talking a difference where that person in the US was a $90,000, $100,000 a year person. In the Ukraine, they were a $50,000, $60,000 person. Same quality, if not better quality of work. So since the war in the Ukraine, that has hurt that industry. That was a huge thing over there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, man. Yeah. And you never know when these things are going to happen, right? Something could happen in one of the countries. I know, like during when we all got 2020'd, it was
that's the best name for it. Yeah, we all got 2020'd.
We got 2020'd, man. We all collectively felt it. People were, like, oh shit, every country was reacting to it differently. So we got affected by what was happening in the Philippines and Asia. We got affected some full lockdowns in South Africa, things like that. So, and in South Africa, especially they monitor your energy, man. They're like, okay, lights off. I'm like, what is going on
No
here?
shit.
Yeah. So it was like, hey, sorry, I got to hurry up and quickly do this for you because they're going to shut the power off. So it's like rotating the energy in your neighborhoods. It's bananas.
I've never heard. So we know you could start a business, but you wouldn't recommend being a serial entrepreneur. They can definitely reach out to on-air brands if you're out there doing those things. Here's my next curiosity for you. And I still want to talk about this rock band for a moment.
Yeah, sure.
But what I'm curious of, if you could start back over your podcast, would you stay with the same topic, or is there, now looking at it, is there another topic that you would shift to?
It's so funny you say that. I'm currently in the process of transitioning it, and probably most likely, now I'm committing to it. I'm shutting down my current podcast of like 4 or 5 years called Entrepreneur Circle, 250 episodes practically. I'm gonna put it to bed. I mean, it served its purpose. I used it as a learning tool. I used it as an opportunity to reach to people that wouldn't have a conversation with me. Otherwise, I'm like, hey, you want to have a cup of coffee with me, Robert Kiyosaki? And then he'd be like, who the hell are you? I'm like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? He's like, oh yeah, sure. So it's like, I don't necessarily need that anymore, Sean. Like I need to start exploring what's the next version, what am I doing now? And it's less learning. I'm always learning, but it's less that and more shifting into that niche that we were talking about earlier, because I love personal branding and talking about that. Now that it's been 4 or 5 years, me developing a personal brand, which I highly recommend everyone out there, creating your personal brand is critical. You have to have one nowadays. And that's what I like to talk about. That's the new thing that I talk about 3 to 5 years. I can easily get up every morning and be like, I can't wait to talk about that shit. So I'm writing a book called Be Your Brand. And I'm going to have to start a podcast with the same name because it's just marketing, right? Everything has to coincide and align and complement each other. So I'm launching several things all around that whole community and building a new community called Be Your Brand. So thanks for asking, because yeah, I'm, I'm, I'm putting it, I'm evolving. I'm changing it to something else.
I mean, honestly, you've got me, you've got even me thinking like maybe I do need to do that other show to do that staffing show. It would be interesting to me just because I listen to a guy named Marcus Edwards who I really enjoy. He has a show called Recruiting Trailblazers, but him and I talked the other day on the phone, and I even said it to him like, Marcus, you do a great show, but all your people are tech, um, high end Silicon Valley. He's out in Silicon Valley recruiters.
Mhm.
When are you going to talk to an industrial recruiter that's got to sell a person on $16 an hour to
Mhm.
go move boxes all day long?
Mhm.
You know, when are we going to talk about that? And he's like, I'll think about it. It's not his world. He doesn't know that world. And I'm over here like, fucking tell you about that guy.
Yeah, dude, I would recommend that you use this vehicle, this platform to test drive it. Right. So you were saying, oh, I can't do 2 episodes a week, but maybe you try it for a month. And that second episode is this show that you're talking about.
I'd have to come up with a good name for it though. Would you use the same name?
No, I would call it something new, or at least this version. So like, let's take Rogan, right? He's a great example. If you look at his feed, it's the Rogan podcast, JRE. He's got the JRE experience, but then he's got some MMA shit in there. Like we know he loves MMA, and he's
Right.
got like MMA, and it's a different number episode from the JRE thing.
I never
So
noticed that.
so you could easily say episode 001, the staffing guru, whatever it is the new episode, and then that branches off to like, oh shit, that one's great. I love that. I'm gonna put this one to bed. And then we'll go do that one. But you could use this. You're already doing this.
Yeah, this I'm comfortable with. This is actually I have to send out 2 emails tonight, but this is actually booked through the first half of November.
Mm,
Like I have a guest every week till
yeah.
till
Wow.
the first 2 weeks in November.
Holy moly.
Well,
That's a good
that's the
deal.
tough part is
Yeah.
people, you know, once it got moving and people hear it and they go, "Oh, really like this." They're like, "I want to come on." Um, for me, because I I know who I won't talk to,
Hmm.
and I kind of hinted at that already. Who I avoid.
Hmm.
Um, when you send me a message and let me tell you about how great I am. Okay, fucking
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. You and I won't ever talk. But the guy who sent me a message, it was like, dude, you like funny stories? I've a dating disaster. Let me tell you all these horrible dating stories I've got. Pfft, you're coming on. Me and you are gonna talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, so that sounds like something that people could expect going with and having a conversation with you or however you set up the consultation for on air brand is kind of this giving them ideas to kind of get the juices flowing in a new
Yeah.
way.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I love chatting with people, listening to their ideas, and adding a little lemon and juice, or gasoline to the fire, whatever they need, to inspire them to do it, or to try something new, like kind of what we're doing now. It's like when we have those conversations, like, hey, experiment, man. It's your playground, it's your sandbox. Do whatever the f you want.
That's the
Um,
great thing. And who cares
yeah.
if you fail at it?
Hey, man, you're gonna learn something. That's a fact. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I want to get into this giveaway. So tell everybody about the giveaway before we get ready to close the bar down and everything. Tell everybody about the giveaway.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay
That's
here.
it.
Yeah, it's just accumulation of information that I've gathered over the years of podcasting, just podcast do's and don'ts. One of the things that I do say in there is like a don't, is, and any podcaster that's listening to this will resonate at some point. They've experienced this where you get the guest on. This isn't you because you're the opposite, where you're kind of like doing a pre-interview and you just like you're you're researching him on the fly. Got to go on LinkedIn. And as the guy's there or girl is listening and saying, can't wait for the show to start, you're looking them up right there on the spot. You don't know shit about them. And the thing is, I'm guilty of this as well. Like, this has happened to me from time to time. And what I always say is, I'm doing too much. I slow down. Like, you've got so much shit on your plate. You need to recognize you're doing too much. So that's what I always say. And that's one of the many, many, many things in this guide. It's like, just do this stuff and don't do this stuff, and you'll be golden. People
Are you willing to give away your biggest do and your biggest don't?
That was one of the big don'ts. Here's a good one. Here's a good do. This is huge. Yeah. A lot of people, when they do social media, bro, they, oh man, I hate this. They'll make blanket statements like, "Hey, Facebook," or they'll go, "Hey, hey, LinkedIn," or whatever it is, whatever the platform is. It's almost exactly like Jimmy Fallon going, "Hey, ABC," like, you're not, why are you referencing your audience as a broadcast network? Like, it's the platform, it's not the people. I don't even like it when, like, Snoop Dogg is on stage and goes, "What's up, Minnesota?" Like, I drove here, man. I'm not from here. Like, why are you blanket stating, right? Right? I'm from New York. I came to Minnesota just for you, and you're saying I'm from Minnesota. But you know what I mean? Like, so, like, this is the way we speak in the marketing world, especially on podcasts and any type of platform that you have, is speak to the individual, talk to one person. Whenever I turn on my camera or my podcast or something, I'm like, "Hey, I'm so glad you're here. Can't wait to share this with you." Like, one person, because that's the person that's listening, and they say, "Holy shit, he's talking to me. He's talking to me." So, like, that's what you want. You want to talk to one person when you do anything in social media or podcasting or writing a book, anything, when you're communicating to people.
And again, folks, you can go right on to Erik Cabral, and that's Cabral, and that's Erik with a K. So ERI. Got my tongue tied around my eye teeth. Couldn't see what I was saying. Let's try this again. And that's Erik, ErikCabral, and that's .co. So that's just CO, no M, /guide. You go on there. It's going to ask you about setting up a meeting. Erik and I have already talked about it. He said, don't stress about that. That's not a thing. But you'll get the guide.
Yeah, get the guide, get the download,
And I'll tell you, I still, to this day, I'll probably do the same thing, because to this day, I still like to look at guides and the way people are doing things, because I'm always listening to shows, and it sounds like you have like you have a process where there's some engineering and production value and all those things. This is going to end. I'm going to hit download.
And then you're going to publish. Yeah.
And tomorrow it'll go out at 7 a.m.
I love it.
Because
simple.
I can't, because I'm late. But I talked to a guy a couple weeks ago, does a D&D, Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, one episode takes me a week worth of production value. And I'm like, well, you do a great job with all those voices. Do you have a soundboard or something? You just hit a button? He goes, no, when we record, I might try to change my voice a little bit, but then I go back through the episode. And if there's a voice change needed, I record over that with a sound device. I'm like,
God bless.
Holy
I'm like, moly.
Bro, really? He's like, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, there are some people out there, they really love the craft. They like, it's a super hobby for them. For me, when it turned into a business, I was like, I don't have time to love it this much. Like, I have a lot of kids. I got a lot of kids, and they all need love, right? So some people are going to suffer. I'm sorry.
Daddy's not loving you today.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I love you all, but yeah.
But you just don't get as much today.
Yeah. Maybe you're gonna have 2 meals today, not 3.
And I saw you were just recently at a pod convention.
Yeah, Podfest. Podfest Expo is fantastic, man. I love Chris Krimitsos, the guy who created that community for us. He's a blessing, man. He's an abundance guy. He's just wants to help people. And yeah, he gave us the opportunity to create our own conference within the conference, all
That's
about
awesome.
investing. So yeah, it was fun, man. It's a raggedy crew, to be honest, like, because when you go to I went to art school, man, so there was a lot of goth and like a lot of we were misfits, man. As creatives, we were misfits. I was the dude smoking weed with long hair, listening to Metallica and Anthrax, in high school, and then went to art school. I fit right in. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool, man.
This is my people.
All the misfits, yeah. But podcasts are full of creatives. So it's a fun group, and people are just figuring it out together, man. And it's a good place to be. So yeah, I would check out Podfest Expo if you guys.
How often does that go on?
Well, the big conference is once a year, so there was like 1,700 people there.
Holy shit!
It was nuts. But they have a lot of virtual stuff. They have a lot of smaller events that are like every other month or something. But yeah, Podfest Expo is a place. .com, I think, is.
And was that in Jersey?
That was in Orlando.
Orlando.
Yeah.
I want to do it. I think I need to do it at this point.
You should definitely check it out next year. They have I mean, it's on their website. They can go check out what the other events are. But the big ones happen once a year. It's probably most likely October next year. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. Just meeting other podcasters, see what they're doing.
People that feel what you feel.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. So, but we're gonna get ready. It's that time. We got to close the bar.
Yeah, man.
Gonna turn the lights down. Play that song. It's closing time. That everybody thinks is about closing a bar. That's one of those weird pieces of information. Everybody thinks the song "It's Closing Time"
Such a sad song, man.
It has nothing to do with the bar being closed.
What is it about?
Oh, it's about a girl getting pregnant.
Oh, wow.
If you listen to the lyrics afterwards and then think about it, it's closing time. We're close the doors. It's time. You got to go home, but you can't stay here. Mm-hmm. It's about a girl who gets pregnant, and somebody said it was an abortion, but that was. I always told him, I said, I think you're talking about "Brick" by Ben Folds, but yeah, it's like actually when you listen to it and you realize like what he was really talking about,
yeah,
you're like, oh my god, this song's like super depressing. Like,
yeah, it is. Great song though, man. Great song.
Well, look, we had the best music.
Oh, 100%, dude. I loved the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. I didn't have an appreciation for the 80s until I got older, like in the 2000s. I was like, it was always a joke to me, all that, Culture Club, and I secretly liked Michael Jackson, but it wasn't cool to like pop in the 80s.
Yeah, but we had a different kind of pop music in the 80s. Like we had like, if you ever can find the video, or if I find it, I'll send it to you. Vanilla Ice talking about music in the 90s. Mm-hmm. If you ever can find that video, he breaks it down perfectly. He basically says music today sucks because it's instantaneous. It's just handed to you. You don't know it. Whereas he goes even down to the styles. They're just thrown in your face. Mm-hmm. Whereas from the 90s and before, we discovered the music.
Yeah.
We were you saw the styles.
You had to look for it. You had to go to the Wiz. You had to go to
you
had to go somewhere and find the cassettes.
It was a Record and Tape Trader in Baltimore was like the big one.
Dude, do you remember listening booth in the malls? Like literally called listening booth.
Yes.
Because there were like glass booths where you put the record on the record player, put headphones on, and you would have to put the record on to hear the music. It was nuts, man.
Or those turned into the CD things where it would have like 10 different CDs that just came out, and you could listen to like snippets from them. Yeah. At Sam Goody.
Right. Sam Goody. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, those days are gone, man.
Yeah, that like you'll never like nowadays. We've had a lot of musicians on, and I didn't realize that for when you buy one album, just buy the album for an artist. You buying one album, it takes them something like 1,000 downloads of their song to equal that payment.
Wait, say that again.
They would have to have a song downloaded 1,000 times.
Yeah.
To equal the monetary amount of you going out and buying one of their CDs.
One CDs or one song?
One CD.
That was like $12.99.
Right. So, yeah. but the money they get from that one CD purchase, it takes 1,000 downloads for them to get to that value.
And people don't buy albums anymore. They're buying one song.
I don't even do that.
Yeah.
I have Apple Music.
Yeah, me too.
So I pay $10 a month and I have all the music I ever want.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. Yeah, it's a totally different industry now. You got to be a YouTuber. You know, you gotta have like a massive following to gain anything. Like, you know, whatever these successful artists are now, they had a following. You know, they were a Disney star, or they were on TV, or they were in a movie, and then they bring them over. You know, and then they go, "Hey, I'm a musician now." You know, but like starting from scratch, man, those days seem to be gone. Like
It's just not there. It's not the same market. But the other side to it is I know some young ladies that have phenomenal voices. Their careers are starting to pick up. They're doing it on Twitch.
Yeah, I get it.
Which I think this is streaming on Twitch right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the next piece to it all is Twitch.
Yeah. Twitch,
you know,
TikTok, all these new platforms.
All of them. So, well, again, folks, go check out On Air Brands. Go check out Erik if you've got a podcast that you're thinking about putting together. But look, he ain't here. Oh, Derek just showed up. What's up, Derek?
Hey.
How you been, brother? But make sure you're reaching out to Erik. On Air Brands. Look, and he said it himself. He's not trying to be arrogant about it, but he's not bringing you the discount bargain basement Earl Shives of that we're definitely talking East Coast now. Earl Shives of setting up a podcast. If you're legit, if you're really looking at it, this is what he's going to bring to you. The Twitch wasn't working at all. I have to take a look at that. Thanks, Derek. So make sure you reach out to him. Again, he has his podcast, Entrepreneur Circle, 250 episodes. Go listen to all of them. Every single one, over and over. Just throwing above the bar. He's got 250. I got 130. So you kind of like every second episode of his, throw one of mine in. It'd be good. It's like a full kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an example. Ghostastic. They're a phenomenal paranormal ghost band we interviewed.
Oh, wow.
Make sure you're reaching out. And then make sure you go on to ericcabral.co/guide and get your guide to the do's and don'ts of podcasting.
Yeah.
Take the time to go do those things. As we always say, support our guests. You know what, Derek, you're absolutely right. It does help if you're connected to Wi-Fi. Now he's on Twitch. It's that damn Wi-Fi gets you every time. And if you're enjoying this, as I always will tell you, like, share, subscribe, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. If you have a sticker and a cause, make sure you send it to me. Let me know what's going on. If your neighbor isn't listening to this show or your friends aren't, make sure you take their phones from them. You go onto their podcast app and you forcefully subscribe them to it. They will appreciate you for that.
That's great.
They might at first wonder what's going on. Push them down, take their phone, and make it happen. I will appreciate. I'll send you a sticker if you do that shit. Just make sure you make a TikTok for me.
That's awesome.
So as we do in every single show there, Erik, the guest always gets the last word. So what's and look, don't log off afterwards. I got to talk to you for a minute.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What's the last word you got for everybody?
Man, there's pressure there, but I would say, step into whatever it is you're hesitating to do. Like, just walk through it, because on the other side, you're going to learn something. You're going to realize, oh shit, I figured something out. Maybe I walked through some fire. I got a little burned, but I came out fantastic on the other end, and I'm ready to do something bigger or better. That's what I would say, man. Limiting beliefs, man, crush those and know that you can pretty much accomplish anything you put your mind to.
Alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation, found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.